Dr. Chris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. What does finding health look like for you? Do you have a vision for your future self and a way to get there? I'm Dr. Chris, and after 33 years in functional medicine and a lifelong journey through brain health, weight loss, hormones, mindset, and faith, I know that real transformation doesn't come from willpower or white knuckling your way to wellness. It comes from gratitude, honoring your body as the temple that God created. This show is about body stewardship, not shame. It's about rewiring your mindset, your metabolism, and your spirit to find lasting health without the grind. I'll help you cut through the noise, see opportunities instead of obstacles, and finally live the healthy, purposeful life you were created for. Let's spark faith and transformation together. Spark Faith starts now. Hey, y'all. I am Dr. Chris Sargent, and welcome back to the Spark Faith Show. We are wrapping up the last 4 episodes into one big, very fun, very cool episode with probably 4 or 5 really good segments about the things that we've talked about, and then this idea of health is a direction and not a destination, right? It's like, it's not this place like, yes, I'm healthy. So what does that mean? And, what it may have meant to you in the past is that, yes, I hit that goal on the scale. I am that number and I am going out to my favorite place to celebrate, right? And then what happens to your habits? So like, this is a bigger idea, and I'm going to tap into, as we have been the last few weeks, tapping into some higher amounts of awareness around your health. I want to make sure that you understand that you have an awful lot of choices out there. And that makes figuring out what you need to do next pretty difficult. So what I'm coming to you with this week and the last 3 or 4 weeks is really about core ideas around health. And really, it's just health is like this lifelong direction, right, of becoming the person that God created us to be through faithful stewardship of our body, one choice at a time. And that means, stewardship, that idea of really being good and faithful with the resources that God gave us, including our body. So, anyway, let's get started. And I could ramble, I can just ramble, but I won't. I actually try to plan these things. So, so is health really a destination? And, lots of times people ask me like, hey, Dr. Chris, I healthy? And although, maybe I'm sitting there looking at their labs, like, how am I doing? And that's a good question, because you need to know where you're at right now. This set of data points, these labs, the labs that functional medicine doctors do, we look at trending, like, where were you? Where are you now? Where's that headed? Which is a completely different way to really understand health. But that's it, right? This is on a time continuum. So, am I healthy is a good question. And over the last year, I've also started to wonder if it's the wrong question, really, because most of us have really thought about health as a destination or diagnosis, and it may or may not really be that, right? So, kind of the mindset of, okay, someday when I lose weight, or I'll lose weight, someday I'll get my hormones balanced, someday I'll fix my blood sugar, someday I'll have more energy, someday I'll sleep better, and then I'll finally be healthy, right? Someday I'll get to the gym 3 times a week. And that's going to make me healthy. And there's the goal. That's the destination. But what if, and you know what? I did this for a long time too. So y'all know some of my story, and it's in a lot of my episodes. But Um, I've known that health is a destination, and yet I was still chasing the number, right? I knew that health is the direction of trajectory, right? And yet I was still I was waiting for that moment, that one day that my body fat percentage would be what I wanted it to be, or the scale would say what I wanted it to say, or my curves would look a certain way in a dress or whatever. But honestly, what if that has been wrong, right? Like that's still not, there's still no destination really. Yes, you have to have goals. I will not take that out because I have goals right now, right? And the goal is what can my 62-year-old little body do versus what's the end game, right? What can my 62-year-old body, how well can my 62-year-old body build muscle? How well can my 62-year-old body lose fat? How well, instead of it being like, oh, I need to be X number of pounds on the scale, or my body fat percentage needs to be X percent. I'm looking for that one number. It's like, wow, how well can I do with this instead? So, what if health isn't really a destination? What if it's really just about the direction and the trajectory that you're taking it? So, what trajectory are you on right now? Are this is, again, I have said this through almost every single episode. This is not to guilt or to shame anybody for your choices because we're all in wherever we are, right? And that's where I want to meet you. And maybe shame and guilt is a big part of your story. And I want to take that off the table today. You do not need to live in that, and Jesus doesn't want you to live in that. So let's take that piece off. Well, I could be if I had only blah blah blah. Well, okay, let's not go there. Let's take it from right now. Like if you were to start making decisions right now, what trajectory could you take your health on versus the trajectory that it might have been on yesterday, right? What does living a healthy life actually look like? Does it look like constant restriction? Does it look like always pushing harder and trying to do more cardio at the gym or trying to get that extra mile? And, yes, if you're training for a half marathon, go, 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 go. However, what else is coming along with that? And what are the back end reasons for doing that? Does it always mean like being perfect on what you eat, never missing that workout, tracking every bite forever? One of my clients, because y'all teach me so much, actually caught me completely off guard the other day. And she asked, like, hey, I know you track your food on MyFitnessPal. Are you going to do that for the rest of your life? And I kind of laughed and I was like, I don't really know. It wasn't a silly question at all. Um, Honestly, I just never thought about it because what I realized then, this was a couple weeks ago or a week ago or so, I realized over this time, like I'm going to track my food for exactly as long as it continues to serve me to track it, right? It's serving me. I'm not serving it. It's serving me to make me know that I am headed in this particular direction, which is a certain number of calories every day with a certain percentage of protein, fat, and carbs. And that's going to keep my direction and health. Instead of becoming this destination, it keeps me in the right direction, right? It holds my course. And that accountability tracking holds our course. It's an accountability factor for myself. And it's not because I have to, right? I can pretty much throw 4 ounces of meat on a plate. And yet, a lot of days I still weigh to make sure that that's 4 ounces and I track 4 ounces. And not because I'm afraid to stop, right? Because I just told you I can probably do this. I've been doing this for a really long time. I know what 4 ounces looks like. I know what a cup of potatoes looks like. I know what a cup of rice looks like or half a cup. I know what 3 cups of vegetables look like. So it's not because I'm afraid to stop, but right now it's teaching me. and it's helping me and it's serving me and it's creating awareness. And someday maybe I don't need it, right? But today it's a tool and I'm not serving it. It's not my identity. And so what do I take my tracker? Did I take my tracker on my honeymoon? Oh, heck no. Did I keep a mental tally to make sure that I was eating protein with every meal? Absolutely. However, I did not track one meal or one glass of wine or one margarita while I was on my honeymoon, right? Because this is the direction, knowing that when I got back on Saturday, that Sunday was going to be back into the direction, right? We can go off course a little bit as long as we don't go way off, right? It's that slippery slope. We don't want to go too far down the hill, right? So today it's a tool, but it's not my identity. And so that conversation really made me understand that maybe healthy people aren't the people who finally arrived, right? Because I'm not sure that people actually do. Maybe it's just people who keep choosing the direction that leads them towards the life that they want, right? So, all right, I'm already behind in my segment. So, let's get going. I know that was my opening and it was super long, but let's go. Okay. So, health really does begin with awareness. And again, there's no shame, no guilt here. But over the last few weeks, I've talked about the slow drift, right? And walking through mud and swimming against the current, right? None of that was to make you feel guilty or any of that, right? This is really an invitation to awareness. And awareness is not condemnation, right? Awareness is an opportunity that you can change a direction you don't even know you were walking in. Like you can't know what you don't know, right? You can't address a problem that you don't know exists. So for some of you, you may not have even realized that your body has been adapting kind of in this negative spiral for a long time. And others may have realized that you've been functioning on way less energy than you thought you were, right? Some of you may have realized that you've allowed the current of culture to determine your priorities. And those realizations are not failures by any stretch of the imagination. Those are gifts. So awareness allows us to make different choices tomorrow than we made yesterday. It was what I opened with, right? So like what is your trajectory and what choices will you make in different choices to send you on a different trajectory? And isn't that what grace does for us, right? God's grace opens our eyes, not so that we live in some sort of regret because we're forgiven, but so that we can move forward with wisdom. So awareness isn't where change ends, it's really where change begins, right? And health requires choices. Whew, I know. This doesn't happen by accident, right? Healthy doesn't happen by accident. Nobody accidentally builds muscle. Nobody accidentally builds emotional resilience. You may not be aware that you are. Nobody accidentally sleeps well or develops a rich prayer life or becomes financially wise or accidentally builds a healthy marriage, right? We don't just stumble into that. All of those things are built through some really intentional choices and not perfect, right? This is about failing and picking yourself back up. And if one thing my son has taught me over the summer with progressive overload in the gym and weights and those kind of things is that failure is part of the process because we learn from our failures. We learn when we're in the valleys of life, not when we're on the mountaintops, when everything is going well. We learn through the hard stuff. And those failures can be hard, or they can just be opportunities where I can say, okay, I couldn't, deadlift 110 pounds last week. So I'm going to back off this week to 100 and see how I do, and then build back up, right? And that's fine. It's just repeated choices, right? Like casting a vote. And this way, though, we're going to move towards life instead of taking away from it. We're going to move towards growth instead of comfort, right? We're going to move towards stewardship instead of like drifting, going with the flow and the current. And honestly, one decision rarely changes anything. Okay, I'm going to clean out my entire fridge and my entire pantry, and that's the way it's going to go. And we're going to do this thing, right? Really, that's a great way to start if you really want to. However, a week from now, you're going to be like, okay, where do those cookies go? I know I knew I had cookies in here, right? Or chips or whatever your thing is. So it's really about the thousands of decisions that change things over time. And there's going to be some not so great decisions in the middle of all that, right? So healthy isn't just something that happens to you. It's something that you repeatedly choose until it's just this habit that is part of your life, like brushing your teeth, or maybe if you're a coffee or tea drinker in the morning, like, right? Like that's just part of your daily rhythm, and choosing health becomes part of that daily rhythm. And it becomes so much easier over time when you can allow yourself to fail and get back up on the horse, right? So, agency, control what God has given you, right? I think this is one of the greatest struggles of our culture, is that we spend an enormous amount of emotional energy on things that we cannot control, right? We can't control the economy, politics, news, social media, wars, other people's opinions. Hello, there's a mirror for me on that one, right? Other people's choices, global events, the future, and the list. Honestly, y'all, you can add to that list until ad infinitum, right? And yet it's really easy to become overwhelmed by all of these things over which we really have absolutely no authority. Meanwhile, the things that God has actually entrusted us with, our thoughts, right? Renewal of our mind, our words, choices, right? What are we going to say? How are we going to respond? Our habits, yes, it's hard to change them. Our sleep, our time, our movement, our food. Your fork doesn't just pick itself up, right? The last time I checked, magic's really not a thing. It did not just feed you that whole entire Krispy Kreme donut or key lime pie or whatever, right? Right? Our relationships, our schedule, right? And sometimes those things are the things that just end up in whatever time gets left over. Instead of moving to the top of the list, and these are things that you have authority over and things that you have control over, and we can take control over the things that we have control over instead of trying to control a bunch of things or people that we really have zero control over. So, and it really isn't about controlling everything at all. In fact, it's really faithfully understanding and faithfully choosing and stewarding what actually belongs to you. So God never really asked any of us to fix the world, right? Like that's his job, and he does that in the end, if you're a believer. But what he has asked us to do as believers, and if you're not, is just faithfully steward our little corner of life. And that's going to change everything, right? Instead of asking, how do I control my entire future? Grabbing, 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 pulling, 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 pushing, pushing, pushing. Take a breath. All you have to do is ask, what's the next faithful decision? Is it drinking some water in the middle of a podcast because you're thirsty? Is it taking a walk, maybe to cool off from an argument, or taking a time out? Maybe it's turning off the TV, Netflix, right? Maybe it's not binging. Maybe it's controlling to 2 shows or 1 show a night so that you have time for other things. Maybe it's just turning the lights out 30 minutes earlier so that you can wind down, light a candle, read a book. Maybe it's saying no to another commitment and really stewarding your time. Maybe it's spending that 10 minutes of quiet time walking and just being with God or sitting and praying, right? Those seem like little tiny decisions, maybe even insignificant. But over time, that's what changes the trajectory. When those things become habits in your life. And this is what's going to bring you, right? Like, take that breath. Peace grows when we release what isn't ours, right? Peace grows when we release what isn't ours to control and faithfully steward those things that are under our control. All right. Health is about becoming. And I know it took me a really long time to understand being as opposed to being a human doing, right? And this is one of the biggest lessons that I'm still learning, right? This is a trajectory. But I'm not becoming a woman who weighs a certain number anymore. I'm not trying to look a certain way because I'm never going to be 5'8". I'm 5'4", right? So I'm not going to ever look like, the Instagram model. It's just never going to happen. I'm 5'4". I'm trying to become a woman who naturally lives a healthy life. That's a completely different goal. Like, one is an outcome, one focuses on my identity. And healthy people don't constantly negotiate with themselves. They've already just decided, like, I've just decided that movement is part of who I am, that preparing meals, meal prep is just part of who I am, and nourishing myself and those around me matters to me. Prioritizing sleep is because recovery matters. Continuing to learn, like in seminary and functional medicine, and even for this podcast, right, matters because growth matters. And your growth matters to me. And spending time with God, because, I mean, honestly, that's where life comes from. So none of those begin with motivation. This all begins with identity. And every choice you make is casting a vote, not just for better health, but for the kind of person that you are becoming, right? Every workout says, hey, I'm someone who values strength. Every meal says, I'm becoming someone who nourishes rather than punishes my body. Every quality night of sleep, I'm becoming someone who values recovery, right? And every time I pray, I'm becoming someone who depends more and more on God. And one choice isn't going to change your life. Well, it could. Yes, it could, actually. That's a different topic for another podcast. But thousands of choices, eventually your habits become your lifestyle, and your lifestyle shapes your character. And your character becomes your witness to your friends, to your family. And this is why stewardship matters so much. And stewardship matters so much to me, because health isn't the ultimate goal. It's becoming more like Christ and being faithful in that pursuit. So health really just gives us greater capacity to live the calling that God has placed on our lives. So the goal isn't to build healthy habits. That's not it either, right? The goal is to become a healthy person living through those habits. And healthy habits are simply the evidence of who you are becoming. You become a different person. So back to stewardship. When Jesus talked about faithfulness, he rarely talked about the spectacular moments, right? He talked about daily bread. He talked about seeds growing, talents, vines, sheep, small things, repeated faithfulness. That's stewardship. Not dramatic, not glamorous. Let me tell you, food prep isn't always glamorous, right? Faithfulness, sweatiness in the gym isn't glamorous. It's day after day, choice after choice, year after year, until one day you look back and you're like, whoa, I have changed so much over the last year, right? It's not one giant leap. It's just a bunch of faithful steps along the way. So over the last several weeks, we've talked about changing our foundations, recognizing that slow drift, recognizing that we've been walking through the mud and really learning how to swim against the current. And so this is the full circle, right? Living fresh is never going to be about helping you reach a healthier destination. It's always been about helping you become a healthier person and getting you in that trajectory of health. Right? Destinations can be reached, but becoming is sanctification. Becoming is a lifelong journey. And some days, you know what? You're going to fall back. You're going to fall on your fanny. You're going to fail, and you're going to get up and you're going to dust that fanny off, and you're going to take another step in that trajectory that you have made a commitment to yourself about, right? God never asked us to be perfect. Never, never. He just said, be faithful. One ordinary choice at a time, one act of stewardship at a time, one day at a time. So I'm going to leave you one final thought-ish, because I like to ramble, but health isn't measured by how close to perfection you are. It's measured by the direction that you're more than likely and more often than not choosing, right? So choose that direction that leads you into that healthy life. And trust God with that journey, right? Because we're here to renew our health, right? We're going to trust that process that we've chosen, right? And we're going to live in that whole thing by being renewed by grace. I love you guys, and I will be back next week. I can't wait to figure out what we're going to be talking about next week. It's going to be new and different as always, staying on the Living Fresh Collective, and reach out, subscribe, hit like, share with your friends. Love you guys. Bye-bye. You've been listening to Spark Faith with me, Dr. Chris Sargent. This show is about renewed health, rooted in truth, and restored by grace. Tune in every Thursday morning at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on the Transformation Talk Radio for more simple, faith-fueled steps to live the vision God placed in your heart. Are you ready to take the next step? Schedule a discovery call or connect with me at drchrissargent.com. That's DRKRIS Sargent.com. While you're there, download my free ebook, Endless Energy, the 6 non-negotiable keys to endless energy, and sign up for an upcoming masterclass. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share the show, and I'd love to connect with you on social media at Dr. Chris Sargent. Let's keep sparking faith and transformation together. Can't wait to see y'all next time.